Chapter 1. The night meeting. It was a chilly autumn evening in New York, 1992. The streetlights on Mulberry Street flickered faintly, and the air was thick with the smell of garbage bins and freshly baked pizza from the small restaurant around the corner. Tony Rizzo, a 28-year-old Italian-American with sharp features and a rosary tattoo on his forearm, stepped out of his old black Cadillac. He wore a leather jacket that creaked with every move, and in his inner pocket rested a .38 revolver, cold against his chest. Tony had grown up in Little Italy, where family meant everything, not the one tied by blood, but the one sworn to Don Vito Moretti. He knocked 3 times on the door of the rundown basement, a place that looked like an ordinary laundromat but hid meetings for those who ran the city's shadowy deals. The door opened to reveal Frankie, a heavy-set man with a scar across his cheek from a knife fight a decade ago. "The boss is waiting," he muttered, nodding toward the back room. Inside, Don Vito sat at a wooden table, surrounded by cigar smoke swirling like mist. He was in his 60s, with slick-back gray hair and eyes that pierced the soul. A stack of $100 bills, bound with rubber bands, lay in front of him. "Tony, my boy," he said, his voice smooth as velvet but sharp as a razor. "Tonight, we deal with that traitor Mikey. He's been talking to the feds. You lead the crew, take Johnny and Sal, no mistakes." Tony nodded, his heart pounding hard. He'd known Mikey since childhood, they'd played baseball on the streets together, but loyalty was everything. Betrayal meant death. Outside, sirens wailed in the distance, a reminder that the city never slept. Tony stepped into the night, adrenaline coursing through his veins like gasoline in an engine. Chapter 2. The hunt begins. It was just past midnight when Tony, Johnny, and Sal drove through the Bronx in a stolen Ford pickup. Johnny, a skinny guy with glasses and a penchant for poker, sat in the back, loading his shotgun with a click that echoed in the quiet cab. Sal, the muscle of the group, drove with one hand on the wheel and the other clutching a bottle of cheap whiskey. "Mikey's hiding in the old warehouse by the river," Sal said, with a grim smile. "He thinks he's safe, but we've got eyes everywhere." They parked a block away, in the shadow of an abandoned factory. The air smelled of rust and river water, and in the background, a barge horn sounded on the East River. Tony felt sweat trickle down his back despite the cold. They moved stealthily, their boots crunching against the gravel. Inside the warehouse, it was dark, with only moonlight filtering through cracked windows. Suddenly, a noise, a can tipping over. Tony drew his revolver, his heart hammering like a drum. They found Mikey in a corner, sitting on a crate with a cigarette in his mouth. He looked up, his eyes widening in panic. "Tony, wait. It's not what you think," he shouted, his voice trembling. But Tony didn't hesitate. A shot rang out, blood splattering the wall like red paint on a canvas. Johnny and Sal laughed nervously, but Tony felt an emptiness inside. They wiped their guns with rags and left the body there, a warning to others. On the way back, the pager in Tony's pocket buzzed. A message from Don Vito: "Good job, meeting tomorrow." But Tony couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Mikey's last words echoed in his mind. Chapter 3. The betrayal revealed the next day. In the sweltering afternoon sun of 1992, Tony sat in a diner on Canal Street. The coffee tasted sour, and the radio played an old Sinatra tune. He flipped through the New York Post, the headlines screaming about a body found in the Bronx. Suddenly, the phone in the booth next to him rang. It was Johnny. "Tony, we've got trouble. Sal's gone missing. And I heard rumors. Mikey wasn't the only one talking." Tony felt a chill creep up his spine. He rushed out to his Cadillac and sped to Don Vito's house in Queens, a grand villa with white pillars and a pool in the backyard. When he arrived, chaos greeted him. The door was ajar, and inside, 2 guards lay dead on the floor, blood pooling like oil. Don Vito was in his office, tied to a chair, his face bloody from blows. "It's Sal," Vito hissed through swollen lips. "He sold us out to the Irish, those dogs. They're coming here now." Tony cut the ropes, grabbing an automatic rifle from the wall. Outside, tires screeched. 4 men stepped out of a van, armed with pistols and baseball bats. Bullets started flying, shattering windows like glass rain. Tony fired back, hitting one in the leg, who fell screaming. Adrenaline surged, every breath felt like fire. He ducked behind a sofa, spotting Saul among the attackers, grinning. "You damn traitor," Tony roared, unleashing a burst of gunfire. Saul took a hit to the chest, collapsing with a gurgling sound. The others fled, but the fight wasn't over. Chapter 4, The End of the Road. With Don Vito free and the enemies on the run, Tony sat in the villa's kitchen later that evening. The lamp swayed faintly, and the smell of gunpowder lingered. Don Vito poured 2 glasses of scotch, the ice clinking. "You saved me, Tony. You're like a son to me." But Tony felt no joy. The blood on his hands weighed heavier than ever. The weeks that followed changed everything. The police ramped up their pressure, raiding their hideouts after tips from survivors. Tony moved from apartment to apartment, always on edge. One night, in a motel room outside the city, he woke to knocking. It was Johnny, breathless. "The boss wants you to take over the Bronx operation, but be careful, there are always more traitors." Tony accepted, but deep down, he knew the mafia life was a trap. 1992 ended with him sitting in his Cadillac again, staring out over the Hudson River under a starry sky. The wind carried the city's sounds, an eternal symphony of danger and loyalty. He lit a cigarette, took a deep drag, and drove into the night, ready for whatever came next. But freedom felt farther away than ever. Epilogue. Winter 1992 blankets New York. Tony Rizzo drives along empty roads, cigarette smoke curling out the window. He survived, but at what cost? Don Vito's world is his prison, and freedom is just a dream. Yet he knows he'll keep going, for it's all he's ever known.